Today is Monday, July 26th, and this is the ADM Investor Services Weekly Market Kickoff. Please note that the views and opinions expressed here today are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. Today's guests are Steve Freed, Vice President of Grain Research at ADMIS, and Alan Bush, ADM Investor Services Senior Financial Economist. Alan, let's start with the Fed this morning. What do you think the Federal Open Market Committee will say following its policy meeting on Wednesday?
Okay, what will probably happen is I think that they will say that inflation is transitory, and I think they will actually be correct in that, even though it appears to be taking a bit longer. And also, overall, there should be no surprises from the Fed at this month's policy meeting.
Alan, how's the U.S. dollar looking currently?
The dollar is off the highs, but it is still currently near 4-month highs. A couple of things supporting the dollar index. First of all, there is some flight to quality flows that are supporting the greenback. Also, it appears that the global economy is growing, but probably there is less growth, I think, overseas than here in the U.S. So I think that gives the dollar index a comparative advantage. So I think once the Fed meeting is out of the way on Wednesday, that there will be additional gains in the dollar index, and I would also expect to see some new highs for the move in the dollar.
Finally, Alan, as you indicated last week, the stock market did shrug off the sharp down day last Monday and returned to near highs in almost all three major indexes. What are the charts saying about the near-term outlook for stock index futures?
Well, they remain constructive, although we are seeing futures a little bit lower today. They have come back from the lows. But keep in mind that anytime any market makes new record highs, as the stock index futures did, in fact, it was just last week that the three major indices did reach new historical high levels, that often there is follow-through gains. And the logic is anytime the fundamentals are strong enough to take any market, in this case the indices, to new record highs, they are probably strong enough to continue the advance. So I believe that over the near term, we will most likely see follow-through gains in the broad stock index futures averages.
Thanks, Alan. Turning to Steve. Steve, what's the latest on U.S. and China relations and the impact on grain prices?
Well, over the weekend, the Chinese representative on some trade talks came out and said there's a stalemate between U.S. and China relations, and some feel that could be near all-time lows. And so there was some concern raised that they may slow their purchases of U.S. ag goods, which was negative to prices. There was a late meeting in which there was more conciliatory comments, raising hopes that maybe they will come in and buy the $43 billion worth of ag goods that they promised under the Phase 1 trade deal.
What's the latest on the new corn crop for soybeans, wheat, and beans? Are we looking at a higher demand from the export perspective?
So far, the market has really been disappointed on the new crop sales. A lot of that has to do with China not coming in and adding to the 10 million tons they have on the books for corn and 4 million tons for beans. So it raises questions whether they'll buy 25 million tons of corn from us or 35 million tons of beans from us like they did this past year. And especially given the fact that the Brazil corn exports are down because their crop is down, and Argentina is just having a lot of logistic problems. So the market has been disappointed. And since last Monday's highs, we lost 95 cents in beans, 43 cents in corn, 50 cents in Chicago wheat, and 74 cents in Minneapolis wheat. And we really haven't seen that perfect of weather that causes this type of sell. So a lot of it has to do with demand is lagging.
The weather does continue to be watched very carefully by farmers and analysts alike. What is the latest forecast for U.S., Canada, and Russia summer weather? And what impact has the floods in China and Germany had on crops and livestock in those areas?
On Saturday, the weather maps talked about hot, dry conditions for the next 2 weeks. Then last night, the maps changed, and we have hot, dry conditions for the first half of this week, then dry conditions for the next 10 days, but a little cooler temperatures, more like normal type temperatures. So again, not a lot of rain, especially west of the Mississippi, but what the market is trying to figure out is whether or not record yields in the eastern half of the Midwest will offset what's going on in the Northwest Corn Belt. And they're still trading a 179 corn yield. If August is drier than normal, especially west of Mississippi, the soybean yield might be the one that comes down. We still don't know exactly the flooding impact in central China, where there's a lot of pig farms and a lot of livestock farms, but they did lose some of those farms and they did lose some acreage, but I don't think it's a market factor. And in Germany, the floods probably caused quality concerns in the winter wheat crop and delayed harvest there, but we're still not concerned about losing a lot of bushels. And in Russia, you've got the spring wheat crop is dry, and the USDA is looking at their crop at 85 million tons. It could be as low as 80. USDA is looking at Canada's wheat crop at 31 million tons. It could be as low as 20.
Well, thank you both. Remember, the views and opinions expressed today on this video are solely those of our guests and should not be construed as the views or opinions of ADM Investor Services or ADM. If you'd like more information about our brokerage services, would like to speak to one of our experts about managing your risks, or would like to open a trading account, please visit www.admis.com.